Listen to the radio, Harry and Edna's Wireless Show. You heard it from the Three Bells.
And welcome to Harry and Edna on the Wireless, where we've got an aeronautical theme, not just because Glenn Miller was saying keep 'em flying. In today's show, we'll be chatting to Ashley Rowe. Who's he? Who is Ashley Rowe? He's a TV man, and he made the documentary The History of the DeHavilland Aircraft Company. And Edna's given me an eye roll. You did the interview.
Well, I know. It was. I'm just giving you an eye roll because it was some time ago. Do you not think?
I'm sorry, I've just lost my headphones.
No, they're still on your head.
I know, but the sound just disappeared.
Such technical quandaries in the studio.
Well, this is an ex-child's pair of headphones, and they refused to wear them anymore.
They were mine.
Well, they only ever work on one side anyway, but
right.
I won't throw them away until they're totally worn out.
No, so then you get a bit befuddled every now and again because you can't hear anything.
Well, actually, I'm a bit befuddled today because we are doing the keep 'em flying, but I proved that you do not need aeroplanes. You do not need wings.
No.
I was able to fly like a bird today.
Yeah, but it wasn't on purpose, was it?
No, but sometimes the great inventions of the world are pure accident.
Which was literally today, as Harry learnt to fly through the air, but not of his own doing.
No, I fell off my bicycle
whilst cycling to work. Actually, you just got down the avenue, didn't you? You didn't really get several metres from the house.
Not really. I've taken a day job during the summer, and I'm working at a local castle, and I was just cycling to said castle, and I fell off my bicycle and flew through the air.
You tried to mount a curb unexpectedly whilst avoiding a car.
Yeah.
Flew through the air and wrecked your uniform, mangled your bike, and
mangled
you, and then didn't like it when I tried to nurse you and give you some first aid.
Well, we'll go back into the nursing, which is rather fitting. Look, I don't know if you can hear in the distance.
Nino.
I don't know if you heard that, dear listener. There was a bit of a siren went off behind us, and that's because they have just heard that young Harry has a mangled hand. And if you think things are a bit wonky today, it's because I'm trying to operate everything one-handed, and it's not easy.
No, bless you. But you've taken your bandage off your hand, so you're getting better.
I am. But do you know, when I was flying through the air and thinking this might be it, I was listening to. I could hear music in the air above my head. Did you know
bless
that?
Her, Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
What ho?
Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Oh, she was amazing, wasn't she? Wasn't she the first lady to play the electric guitar?
Well, that's what I was going to say. You may listen to that and think we're just playing a little bit of 1950s music there. She was doing this and playing these songs in the 1940s. Without her, they say there would have been no Elvis, there would have been no rock and roll.
No, because didn't they get their inspiration? Wasn't she the first lady to... Well, it was several things, wasn't it? She was the first woman, but also the first black woman to pick up an electric guitar. It
was a relatively unknown instrument, apparently.
Yeah.
And she was like touring around. She was a preacher, as well as many other things. She has an absolutely colourful life. And the trouble is, if you're not going with a big band, if it's just you,
it was big band, wasn't it?
Yeah, but how do you create that wow factor? So she got this newfangled instrument called an electric guitar, and she was bashing out tunes like that you heard.
And she was a black female, which was again unheard of in those days, to be playing an electric guitar. She was a real trailblazer of her day. And
if you watch, there are some clips of her on YouTube performing. She's doing the windmill sort of playing of the guitar with the arm going around, which is sort of famous from The Who. But this is like 20 years prior.
Yeah.
So she's doing all of this. She was an amazing lady.
Amazing. And you really got to check her out.
And that was from the 40s, guys. That was not the 50s. That was from the 1940s.
So check her out. Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Tharpe. Go and YouTube her. She's amazing and a real trailblazer for the day.
And it's rather worryingly that she just got to play a track from her and she pushes off poor Ashley Rowe and his history of the DeHavilland Aircraft Company.
I know, but she was such an amazing woman.
But the DeHavilland made the Tiger Moth airplane. They made the Mosquito.
Yeah.
They made the Comet,
Yeah.
the world's first jet airliner.
But she was the first black woman, and in those days, that was a massive thing.
No, there was other black ladies before Sister
Yeah,
Rosetta
I
Tharpe.
know, but you know what I mean. She was the first black woman to play an electric guitar, and in the day, it was a massive
to get
thing.
that sort of exposure.
Exactly, she
particularly
was
in
a
America.
real trailblazer.
Because she was on TV in America in the 50s and all this sort of stuff when black music sometimes didn't make it onto the airwaves.
No, and it was, don't forget, it was still in the days of segregation, so massive leap forward.
Yeah. But we're going back to flying.
Yes, let's get back onto the subject of flying. Right, off my soapbox of Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Yeah, well, actually, we're going to play a track and then we're going to have a bit more of a natter once I've weaned you off with Sister Rosetta Tharpe. But first, why don't we just have a fly down to Rio?
What ho?
Flying down to Rio with Mr. Fred Astaire.
That's one we've not heard for a long while, isn't it?
I don't think we've ever played it. I found it by chance when I was trying to find... You may have noticed there's a theme of all the music.
Is there?
There was a certain aviation link with everything we're playing.
You are so clever.
I am rather. And I just came across it. And I didn't know we had it.
No, I can't say I've actually heard that one before.
I don't think we've ever played it before.
Well, there you go.
It was a first. Now, going back to my sore fingers... And the fact that you're having to wind up the gramophones because I can't do it.
Yeah. And
we're halfway through decorating a house and you ended up saying, we've got no blinds because I can't operate a drill because one hand's all mangled.
So here we go again.
Well,
that's right,
normally
I've
we
done
would
the
get
blinds.
youngest son to do it.
Yeah.
But he did the same thing 2 days earlier and I was in hospital trying to get his arm repaired.
Well, it was our son's... came home with a slightly swollen thumb because he said he was larking about with some lads at school and one of the lads fell on his thumb.
Yeah, he fell over and they landed on him.
And then 2 days later we said, "Oh, son, your thumb's rather large and bruised and that should have gone down by now," and it hasn't, so maybe we should whisk you off to A&E.
Well, we rang the doc and they said, you've got to go to the hospital.
Just go straight to A&E.
No, we didn't, because we said... Oh, it's a bit late now. We're ever so busy. Wait until the morning, and we'll go in the morning.
Oh no! To be fair, we did say, "Are you in? You're not in racking amounts of pain." So right, you've got a choice, son. You can either go tonight and we'll wait hours, or we'll take you first thing in the morning when it'll be much quieter, and you'll hopefully whisk in and out. And we did that reverse psychology. If you pack loads of magazines and games and things, because you're going to be there hours, hopefully you won't be.
We're out within the hour.
Well, exactly. See, it worked.
And I've done the same because I said I think I might have broken my thumb because as I fell off said bicycle as I flew through the air, one puts one hands out in front
to break the fall.
And I didn't realise at the time because I thought my leg hurt the most, but then my hand is actually the one thing that's really hurting. And you said we don't want to go to A&E
on a Sunday afternoon.
I think you call it emergency room in America. It's where you go in if you have an accident.
Yeah, and we decided that Sundays were full of sporty type activities in A&E, so we'd be there for hours. So if Harry's still in agonising pain in the morning, a la son, we would take you tomorrow. But son, son has fractured thumb. And is now in a splint.
And I don't think mine is because I'm actually gaining colour and it hasn't gone the same.
And it's not as black and blue and twice the size as his is.
So instead of talking about Ashley Rowe, I think it should all be about me. Me. And the awfulness you were at putting horrible medical solutions.
Right.
The screaming.
So, the screaming that Harry did. No, the screaming that Harry did because he's a big old girl when it came to cleaning up his leg and trying to put a bandage on your thumbs to keep the swelling down. You were like a big old girl's blouse.
Yeah,
I said, man up, my love.
You say this.
Set an example to your children.
But equally, and I'm sure this is not unique to me, when something serious happens to me, I usually either you don't notice it or I don't say anything. And then you have a real go at me saying, why didn't you do something? And then you reckon I get a splinter in my finger and the world ends.
And then you're like a big girl. You go from one extreme. There's no middle way with you. You either massively underestimate what you've done or massively overplay what you've done. There's no sort of middle temperate ground.
Yeah, it's making me snigger because I remember last time I came out of hospital because I had a little injury and I didn't notice until I thought I'd get in the bath because I had a load of electrodes stuck all over me. And as I took my shirt off, I found a cannula hanging out my arm. And you said, did you not notice? And I said, I just didn't want to make a fuss.
Oh, but your arm, you would have noticed that in your arm, you silly sausage.
Well, to be honest, I had so many pins and needles
you'd
pushed
been so
into me.
prodded and poked around.
I didn't actually notice there was another one in there.
No, and you, to be fair, you had been prodded and poked and skewered and stabbed to death.
Yeah. Now, if that hasn't put you in the mood for learning about the DeHavilland Aircraft Company, I don't know what will. But we're going to play... George Formby gets in the mood, because we're going to play It's in the Air.
Change the subject back to aircraft.
And I love It's in the Air. It's a film that's not been released, like on demand on the TV or by DVD. And it's a shame, because I do love this film. And
How do you know about it?
I saw it many years ago on a radio. I don't know why it never got released. And I loved it. And it's never been released. And the film's called It's in the Air, and this is the title track. And then after that, we'll go straight to Ashley Rowe.
Okay.
And the interview we recorded with him about the DeHavilland Aircraft Company, or rather the TV documentary he created.
What ho?
Yeah, sure. My name's Ashley Rowe, and I'm a cinematographer by trade, and a friend of mine who is an ex-Concorde pilot owns a Tiger Moth, and he is a member of the Tiger 9 Tiger Moth display team. And 4 years ago, it was the 100th anniversary of Geoffrey de Havilland building his very first airplane in the grounds of Highclere Castle, and we started to make just a little 10-minute DVD to be shown at the dinner that evening, and we started to meet lots of people associated with Geoffrey de Havilland. We interviewed lots of interesting characters, and the project just grew and grew and grew. We ended up with over 30 hours of material about Geoffrey de Havilland, and so we've managed to edit it down into a 2-hour documentary, and it includes drama footage which we've recreated of him flying his very first airplane, and it really charts the story of Geoffrey de Havilland from 1910 right through to present day, really.
And for our listeners who might not be too up on their aviation history, why was he such a key figure in the sort of aviation history?
Well, he built his first airplane in 1910, and he demonstrated this aircraft at Farnborough. And at Farnborough in those days, they only built balloons, and the guy saw the aircraft and saw the potential and employed Geoffrey de Havilland as a designer. And unfortunately, the First World War came along, and his aircraft were used and became very successful during the First World War. He then left de Havilland and formed his own company, and his aircraft were then used during the Second World War. And notably, he built an aircraft called the Mosquito, which was for 4 years the fastest bomber during the Second World War. It was even faster than the Spitfire, and they ended up building 700 during the Second World War. And so that was one of his sort of notable aircraft that really made history, to be honest. And after that, he designed the Comet, the Comet, which was the first passenger jet airliner, and his planes actually. He designed the Tiger Moth as well, which was sold all over the world, and was very successful in Australia and New Zealand as a cheap airplane that could be built at a good price and flown very easily around the world, and became successful in places like Australia and South Africa because it could land in a field. So it was used by farmers and people like that. So he designed lots of very interesting aircraft that really changed the face of aviation, and his company became really, really successful. Unfortunately, the Comet, the passenger jet airliner, crashed, and that was the demise of de Havilland in the end. Yeah, so.
So was he a pilot himself? Was he so successful because he understood what was required when you're flying these aircraft?
He'd never flown an aircraft in his life. He was very interested in mechanics. His brother actually worked for a motorcycle company building engines, so he became very interested in that. And when he was at school, he hired a steam car with a friend, and a driver, and they went on a trip for a day in this old steam car, and this really inspired him. And he wrote. He ended up going to technical college, and he wrote a whole essay about this steam car, the design of the steam car, and he then decided, he became interested in flight, but he'd never actually flown an airplane in his life. And he was very lucky. He approached his grandfather, and his grandfather gave him £10,000, which he was going to inherit, but his grandfather decided to give it to him early. And with that £10,000, he used that to build his first aircraft and to really set up his company. But the very first aircraft that he designed and flew, he taught himself to fly. He'd never flown an aircraft ever in his life. And the very first aircraft that he designed and flew crashed. He got about 10 feet off the ground, and it flipped up and crashed to the ground. He went back to the drawing board, redesigned it, made a few adjustments. He used wood called spruce, which is flexible, and so that actually kept the aircraft flying. And so his second airplane, he got off the ground, did a little circuit, and then just slowly taught himself to fly. He even took his own family up. He took his 2-year-old son up for a flight in this old aircraft, and he taught himself.
What ho!
And as Edna noticed, there is a bit of a theme of all the music that's going on today. It's all got a bit of an aviation theme as we salute Ashley Rowe as he tells us all about the DeHavilland Aircraft Company. And there's more of that interview coming up, after the next track actually. But first, I wanted to tell you, this is Harry and Edna on the wireless. I'm Harry, she is Edna, in case you weren't sure. And if you're enjoying the show and want to listen to this and all the previous shows, you can. You just go to harryandedna.co.uk, and on there you can listen to all the back catalogue of all our previous shows. And we've even got downloadable podcasts, which are the speech-only version. We've had to take out the musical tracks just because copyright laws prevent us putting the music in. So if you want to download us and have and listen to us natter and me describe how I flew like a bird today over my handlebars, that's where you need to go. harryandedna.co.uk. How about a little bit of My Blue Heaven? Kind of aeronautical, isn't it? Heaven, it's up in the sky. And then we'll go back to Ashley Rowe.
What ho!
So he was quite a unique character, was he, to designing aircraft and doing something that he really believed in?
Yeah, we interviewed a lot of people that worked with him. We interviewed a few designers that worked with him and some sons of designers, and they all said that he was a very decent chap, very brave, very determined. In the Second World War, the MOD were after a fast bomber, and Geoffrey showed them a design for the Mosquito, but the MOD weren't interested, and so off his own back, he actually designed a prototype of the Mosquito and did a demonstration for the MOD, and they were so impressed with the way this aircraft flew, they put in an order, and he ended up building 700 Mosquitoes, and that just shows, his drive and determination to actually, be successful and come up with interesting designs. All his aircraft were made of wood. Yep. So even the Mosquito, which was, like I say, one of the most successful aircraft during the Second World War, was made entirely of wood and covered in cloth. So it had no rivets in it at all, and it. Like I say, they had to build so many during the Second World War. They had to get other companies to help build components for the aircraft. So they employed furniture design companies. So there was one company called Parker Knoll, and they actually built components for the aircraft. They actually employed funeral directors, people that made coffins, to help build parts for the aircraft as well during the Second World War.
Did that make the build process a lot quicker?
Yeah. Well, they were churning out, so many a week. Like I say, in a short time they built 700, and they were just churning them out off the assembly line so fast.
He sounds an absolutely fascinating character, and it's all here in the DVD. And so how do people get to view it?
We have a website which is www.flyinghorsefilms.co.uk, and you can watch the trailer on the website, and if you wish, you can buy and order a DVD, or you can pay and download the film itself.
And it's called The Geoffrey de-Havilland Story, Britain's Pioneering Aviator, 1882 to 1965.
What ho?
There we go, putting the sun back in the sky. See, I'm keeping those themes going again, those aviation films. Now, when we were listening to our good chum Ashley Rowe, and he was talking about the mosquito, it reminded me they used to make them in a place called Wolverton, where we used to live.
Was it the de Havilland they made there?
No, they made the mosquito.
Sorry, mosquito.
De Havilland was the company.
Yes, because the Wolverton Works were specialist in kind of carpentry, weren't they, and making carriages.
They made train carriages. That's what they were famous for.
Yeah, but it was the carpentry skills, wasn't it, that they were well known for, and that they made such amazing carriages, including the Royal Carriage.
Oh,
Am I right?
The Royal Train. It was even kept there until about 10, 15 years ago. It used to be kept there. And
yeah.
The carriages were there and they were maintained there. I mean, it's sad that it used to be a massive place, wasn't it? Had a massive wall all the way around it.
Yeah.
And
it was one of those professions that you started in as a boy, and that was it. You were in it for life. That was your career, literally, till you retired.
Because I remember we used to live quite close to it, and then it'd be like this whistle would come and everybody would charge out at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And if you were walking the other way, you were like a salmon going upstream as this mass of people. But it's pretty much all gone now, hasn't it? And
it has,
and
sadly.
Sad.
Yeah, sadly, they a lot of it was dilapidated, and as I guess, some of it was preserved and turned into flats, so they preserved the shell of it, but it was sad that they stripped all the interior out. And they built housing and retail on there. But I remember you pointing out to me how you could still, when we left, still see the camouflage paint that was on the wall. But that's pretty much, I think, has gone now. I think all that part's been demolished. Well, some of it was still there, because didn't they keep it throughout the war? Because it was making Spitfires?
No, mosquitoes. We're just talking about it.
Sorry. I got Spitfires on the brain. They were making mosquitoes because of was it the carpentry skills that kept them?
You just said that.
Did I?
Yes.
Gosh, was that really earlier?
No, you said it in this link between the last track we played and me talking now.
Well, anyway, so it was a.
Do you want me to just carry on?
Go on then. I've lost the thread. I have lost the thread. You take over, love.
Yeah. One thing that is still there. If you go to, I think it's near some of the shops, that there was like a T-junction. And if you look, it's just a wall with like little tiny windows. Mm-hmm. But if you climb over a wall or look over the top, it's actually a pillbox. And they've put the windows in afterwards. And that must have been protecting one of the entrances to the works.
Yes, you're right. And you're right. There was the faded green camouflage paint on the walls, because obviously they had to camouflage it during the war because it was such an sort of vital part. And it was one of those that if you followed the tracks, then obviously you would get to the main works. You
would. Well, just to give you a bit of time to recover.
Go on then.
We're going to play Dive Bomber by Pete Johnson, which is a bit of a worry because we don't want them to bomb Wolverton Works. And then we'll come back and I'll just quickly recap all that
all the
Ashley Rowe just said. Yes, so that you remember what you were talking about.
What ho?
Was that you, Harry, on the old boogie-woogie piano?
I was just saying I would love to learn. We have a piano which is so dilapidated, the piano tuner just said no.
No. He said, don't bother even paying me to come and tune it. It's so rubbish.
But I could play probably Boogie Woogie because it doesn't matter if it's out of tune, does it?
I know. It's this old piano we got, and the piano tuner said it's just rubbish, get rid of it, and we can't bear it to get rid of it. And it's a bit honky-tonk piano tune, isn't it? So
it's perfect for Tom Carradine.
Exactly.
One day we shall have our Tom.
Over here doing a bit of pub piano.
And then we'd have to say, don't bring your piano, we've bought one
we've got
with
a
us.
Beautifully out of tune one.
Now, Wolverton, they built an airplane called the Mosquito, which was made out of wood. You may remember, you just interviewed the chap. Yep.
Yeah.
He also talked about Parker Knoll. And they, at the time, they were based in High Wycombe. And that's a place I used to live as a child. In fact, I went to school very close to High Wycombe.
Didn't your dad have something to do with Parker Knoll?
No.
No, it was just literally the connection of you being born near.
And I wasn't born. I was not born there.
Living near the factory.
I used to live near the factory. In fact, the school I worked for, it really was into woodworking, and they sent most of the people to Park and Knoll and G-Plan and all these places to do their woodworking.
So you have an affinity with Park and Knoll, don't you?
Well, kind of, but it's gone now. They've all gone. The whole of that furniture industry is now gone. The name survives, but it's nothing to do with the original anymore.
Is there houses on the old factory site?
Probably. I haven't actually been back to High Wycombe for many, many a year, so I couldn't tell you. But there you go. There's another track. So not a track, but another fact. So it follows me around as the mosquito.
It does. It does.
Just only if you could remember. A mosquito's got two engines, and a
2 minutes
Spitfire's got one engine.
Yeah.
What ho!